Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2006 Mercedes-Benz E55 AMG Wagon. So this was part of the third generation, known as the W211, that was produced between 2001 and 2009. This AMG version was produced between 2003 and 2006, was actually the best selling AMG model up to that point, and which is easy to see why, as you'll see once we delve into it a little bit more. So this being an AMG version had tuned airmatic suspension, which basically meant that it had 3 different modes you could choose from depending on where you were or the road conditions or your mood. Also had disc brakes up front and rear. The front ones actually were cross drilled, and it had performance tyres, all of which it needs because of the monster that lives under the bonnet, but we'll get to that soon as well. Interior wise, despite the fact that this car is actually larger than its predecessor, it does actually apparently offer less interior space, which actually get inside, there we go, which is especially obvious with this estate version. It was noted for the fact that it was a lot less roomy inside than its predecessor, which is a little bit of a shame. And interior wise, I'm not a massive fan of this wood and black leather. It does look a bit dark and dingy, to be honest, but everything that you could ever expect on a mid-2000s Mercedes is here, festooned with buttons for your phone and all sorts of other extras that you'd expect at the time. I do like the fact that on the rev counter it says V8 underneath the dial bit there, which is always cool. And yeah, decent amount of room though inside, even if it's not as big as its predecessor, as you can see by the leg room. Reasonable amount of leg room there. And yeah, the boot space is, although again not apparently that large compared to its predecessor, is still plentiful as far as I'm concerned. No real intrusion in terms of any of the rear diff or exhaust or anything like that. And yeah, it's also got 4 exhausts, because as you can see, it's got a little bit of a spoiler on the back there. But yeah, all of that is second to none when it compared to what the beast that lives under the bonnet. It's a 5.4 litre supercharged V8 engine producing 469 horsepower and 516 pounds-feet of torque, which is quite a large amount for a car from the mid-2000s, quite frankly. And yeah, the supercharger itself is actually a rotary screw compressor supercharger, so it's 2 screws that work, I believe, to force the fuel into the engine at a higher rate of speed. And yeah, but as per usual, Mercedes call it the compressor with a K, not with a C. Always find that a little bit weird, but obviously it does help separate it from its contemporaries at the time. Unfortunately, the only negative to this car is the fact that it is saddled with a 5-speed automatic gearbox, but as you'll see when we get out onto the open road, it's not that big of an issue when you consider the engine that it's got going on. So yeah, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are once again at the drag strip, so let's see what this powerhouse of a wagon can do. So yeah, it is only rear wheel drive, and obviously it does have that 5-speed auto, but despite that it does actually have a good rate of acceleration. So let's take a look. It's got a decent launch off the line as well, considering all of that power and torque that it's got going for those rear wheels. It's actually fairly effective at getting off the line. And yeah, gets up to a really good rate of speed as well. 129 mile an hour there, which is not bad for what is a wagon that at the end of the day also weighs 4,493 pounds, which is obviously not a small amount. Now obviously the saloon did weigh a little bit less than this. I think it was about 150 or so pounds less, which isn't all that much less considering this obviously has more bodywork and more practicality on its side. And at the end of the day, a wagon that is this fast and this controllable, while also being really rather quite fun, is just that bit cooler than a saloon car as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that extra bit of weight is worth it for the extra practicality and the fact that most people just don't expect an estate car to be all that quick, quite frankly. And yeah, we're in high-end B class. I'm surprised actually, given the actual speed of this thing, but yeah, we are in B class. So yeah, those are the stats, which aren't entirely representative of the experience, to be honest. Yes, the speed and handling is somewhat correct, but I would say the acceleration is that bit better. but I guess the launch and braking is somewhat accurate given it is an older car. Yes, it has disc brakes on the front and the rear, but it is still quite a weighty car, so there is a lot of heft to slow down when it comes to, you know, getting up to a good rate of speed. But on the whole, this is a fantastic car to drive. Chief among which, for the reasons for that, is the engine, either because of the engine itself or the supercharger whine. Both are really rather quite excellent to listen to, and yeah, just enjoy out on the open road. So let's hear them both. So yeah, went interior mode there just to let you hear the supercharger that bit better, because it is more audible on the inside of the car rather than the outside. But regardless of which noise you like the most, it's just absolutely sensational. Always like the V8s from this kind of period of Mercedes' history. You know, you look at the lights in the SLK 55, absolutely glorious sounding engine in that car. Not as powerful as the one in this, but obviously it is a lot lighter, and I wish we had that SLK back in a Forza game, because I absolutely adore that car. Really do miss it, but this is a good supplement for that vehicle, and yeah, and then some, because this does offer more power than it would ever have in the SLK, this engine, and yeah, it's just as exhilarating and also quite fun and entertaining to have this level of power and torque in a car that is obviously a heavy estate vehicle. But still, despite all of that weight, acceleration is not bad at all. 0 to 16, 4.115 seconds. 0 to 109.7 seconds, and with the limiter being off this car, being a game, it can get up to 199 miles an hour, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, handling wise, it can be a little bit tricky at times, because obviously you do have a lot of power going for those rear wheels, you do have a lot of weight, and even though it's got AMG tuned suspension, it is still at the end of the day a big soft Mercedes. So yeah, it is a bit more of a brute force kind of handling technique that you have to take with this car. You know, shove it into the corner, slide it around, and hope that it comes back, because yeah, otherwise you're going to be wrestling with it to get it around the corner in a normal fashion. But regardless, it's huge fun to drive, and yeah, it's just really fun to finally have a more modern estate car from Mercedes that is properly quick. Obviously we do have the Hammer version of the estate car from the 80s, but this is just on another level when it comes to its noise, and yeah, when it comes to its handling characteristics as well. So yeah, an absolute superb car. Really glad we have this on the game. Really have missed these kind of mid-2000s V8s from Mercedes. We've obviously had some mid-2000s cars from them in the past. We've had the C-Class Saloon, which is alright, and it is a good supercharger vehicle as far as V6s go, but it's nowhere near as powerful or as fun as this. But getting on to the whole supercharger thing itself, Mercedes really are one of the few European manufacturers that really did nail the supercharger thing, quite frankly, as far as it goes when it comes to performance vehicles. You know, there's very few other ones that I can think of that nail it as much as these do. You know, BMW, Audi, Porsche don't really do supercharging. Then, you know, you look into the UK, only really Aston Martin in the 90s did it. They don't do it anymore. Jaguar still somewhat do it, or they did before they turned completely electric. And I guess you could only really say Koenigsegg as well. So yeah, Mercedes really were up there when it comes to supercharging, and yeah, this is a fine example of that, quite frankly. Nonetheless, so if you really want this car, and you really should, you can get it for 20 points in the current festival playlist. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.